So guys, welcome to our monthly community meetup. So my name is Trang, and today we have Maria Hill. You guys all know her as a modern psychic medium. And just want to say thank you for coming out, supporting us, and helping us grow. And for new faces, our community meetup's kind of like a happy hour, and it's really casual where you guys, we get to meet you guys, and then you guys get to ask us any questions or learn about the metaphysical world, or we might be talking about a themed topic, which today is kind of like paranormal activity, but it's also just like, it doesn't have to be something like, oh, I saw a ghost. It could be also like, I'm sensing something ever since I was a kid. I was wondering what that was, or just anything little or big. So, or tasting, smelling things. And also just a reminder, our blog and YouTube channel have lots of free content and information that talks about all this, including how to know if you're psychic, crystals that help with intuition, and so much more. So make sure to check that out. And for tonight's event, we're going to take questions from you guys. And if I'm going to try to take the ones first on Zoom because you guys registered. And if I see anyone on Facebook, then I'll holler at you guys later. So so feel free to type in your questions to Maria below about anything you want to ask her in terms of the metaphysical world. And when it comes to your turn, I can unmute you so you guys can actually, so you can get a chance to talk to Maria. But if you're like shy or you're like multitasking sometimes and you're just like, hey, just, you just want me to ask, just type in like, Trang, can you ask XYZ? And I'll ask for you. So I also have some, so yeah, feel free to throw in any questions. I feel like on a radio talk show, like, okay, we have caller so-and-so on the line.
Okay. Jeanette says she has a lot of questions.
Yes, shoot away.
Awesome.
You have some really great questions too, Jeanette. Okay, I'm gonna start with one right here. Oh, okay. Well, people are typing away. All right, I'm gonna start with the one here from Chelsea, and you've been getting this. Maria's been blowing up on TikTok, guys. So thank you for all the love. And one of the things she did talk about is clairalience. Is that how I'm saying it correctly? And that's where you, yes, and that's where you smell something. So Chelsea asks, I smell cigarette smoke randomly, constantly. I never knew this meant anything other than I'm nuts until your video. I also have had many occasions where I get feelings that physically put me down, and unfortunately something bad always follows. So my kids always joke that my feelings are always right. Sadly, I don't know how to channel these constant feelings and emotions, and I think it's just turned to anxiety. So any suggestions or thoughts? Or do I have some ability here, or am I just going crazy?
That is a very awesome question, actually. Happy to answer it. Well, there's a few different facets. What was interesting about the initial video that caught the attention on TikTok was, just a little minute long video, and didn't get to really dive into all the details about what it means and stuff. So I've been launching sequential parts to explain more. But some other people were actually asking about, like, why do I feel a certain way when I'm getting the smell? And, just a disclaimer, because a lot of people were like, oh, brain tumor. And I'm like, okay, let's not like scare people about something that happens to 1% of the population. Like, yes, it could be, but we're talking about if you're a healthy person, you don't have any known conditions that could be causing it, like seizures or like migraines even, etc. We're talking about things like you can correlate some sort of psychic connection to it. So basically here, have any of you guys heard of synesthesia? You can just raise your hand if you've ever heard of it. It's actually, people can actually have this as, like, I guess it's kind of a condition, but it's not harmful. It's more of like a sensory mix-up of like, let's say people can taste sounds or taste colors or hear colors, or it's a mix-up of inputs of what you would normally associate with a certain other input. But the interesting thing is, I actually suspect that this is also can be part of clairalience too. I myself have some sort of synesthesia, and I use it in my psychic stuff. Like, so it comes in handy. So I think that, for example, if you are kind of psychic, and maybe it could also be partially from that synesthesia, you can associate a feeling with the smell. And it could come from a past thing that was unpleasant, that a smell that your brain says this is unpleasant. And so this feeling smells like cigarette smoke, for example. But the other thing to consider is that I think cigarette smoke is almost like this certain vibration, and the fact that a lot of people are reporting the cigarette smoke being like that, to me is, I mean, yes, cigarette smoke specifically can be a sign of like sinus issues and stuff like that. But psychically speaking, I do believe it has a certain density to it. And if it's not coming from a loved one on the other side that passed that liked to smoke, which is another potential, I do believe sometimes it can be associated with like a denser entity potentially. Now, this isn't to say like if your grandma used to smoke and you smell her type of cigarettes, like she's a dense entity. That's not to say that at all. It's more of like that, that potentially sometimes there could be a spirit that passed away, let's say, who maybe like hung around and like wasn't the nicest person in life, and they smoked a lot, and that is kind of attached to their energy field. That's kind of like part of their energy as a spirit, because they haven't, let's say, crossed over yet. And so if they have those kind of denser energies and you're sensitive and they're like in your house or your space attached to the property or something, you can definitely internalize those feelings like they're yours and be like, why am I feeling like crap every time I smell the cigarette smoke? So there's a number of factors to consider. And of course, if you feel it could be a medical condition, definitely get it checked out. You know, we're not telling you to ignore your concerns about your health at all. But yeah, that's kind of a few different answers potentially to what's going on. But I do feel she's sensitive. So I do feel she has sensitivity. And that's how I feel it could be potentially like an entity or something that's around, or a spirit that's just in that, attached to the land or something. So you can always put up a psychic protection around yourself. You can wear a protective crystal, like a black tourmaline. That's a little intense for some people. So instead you could, you could wear another type of protective stone like pyrite. There's a bunch of others as well. And you can also just cleanse your space once in a while and set your boundaries. Just say like, no spirits that have this vibration can come into my energy field. It's just not allowed. You can ask, if you believe in angels, you can ask your angels to protect you. You can ask your guides to protect you, and just kind of do that as a good measure if you're feeling like something's kind of invading you or oppressing your energy.
Awesome. I'm going to mute you, Jeanette. You have a story to share. Oh, wait. I put on mute. There you go.
Yes, I do. Okay, so I'm gonna try to keep it short, because I had a lot of experience at this one place in college. So after I signed my lease, I realized that the place that I signed with was a old hospital. I don't know if you know this, Trang, but Grace Hospital. No?
Was that on our campus or the other side, the medical campus?
It's on our side.
Oh no, I don't remember that.
Okay, so first experience was my husband and I, well, back then my boyfriend and I, we went out and my friend was there by herself. She was sleeping on the couch, and then she kept hearing people whispering in her ear like, hello, hello, hello. And she was really confused. So I was telling her, oh, it's people outside, blah, 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 right? So we just ignored it. And then when it got closer to Halloween, weird, right? My best friend and her like 4-year-old kid came by to visit. So we were all in our room and we were watching a movie, and he went out to the living room to go play with my hamster. And then he comes running in the door and say, mommy, 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 I saw a little girl. And we're like, oh, what the heck? So we took him and we put him in the room and we closed the door, right? And then next thing you know, we hear some noises and we find that my faucet was turned all the way on. Like you have to lift it all the way up. And the water was running out like full blast. And to get to the bathroom, you have to pass all 4 of us to get to the bathroom. And then there's one time where I was taking a shower and I felt someone watching me. And then my husband was laying on the bed and he said that he saw that person watching me. And he told me that it was a little boy sipping a medicine cup. So I don't know what's going on. Help me.
Yes.
Like, I still think about that.
Wow, that's intense.
And there's more stuff that happened, but
wow, that's a very haunted location.
yes,
There's definitely a lot of attached energies there. I'm seeing like groups of energies. Like I'm not just seeing a few, I'm seeing like large group of energies that reside there. And some of them actually like it there. I don't know. Some of them don't, but some of them like it there. But they just wanted some attention. So yeah, and I think I remember telling your husband this when he came for reading, that he's actually quite a psychic person naturally. He's very intuitive. And so yeah, but it's so fascinating when you said like I felt someone watching me, and see that's like one of our most primal kind of, I would say, psychic senses, because we have, what I've learned over time as a psychic medium is we have like, I don't know if anyone here knows anatomy or knows the ins and outs of our human anatomy, but I get a lot of feeling in between my shoulder blades and down my back. And you can almost feel like behind your head, almost if someone's watching you. And I do feel like there's something in that part of our body that can help us be aware of a potential threat, right? So it's like a telepathic, or an energetic resonance that we feel. It's like a vibration you can't, it's almost undetectable. And that feeling of being watched is what a lot of people report. Even if they don't see the entity, if you feel that feeling, there is something around you that's non-corporeal. So yeah, that's a very haunted location. Did you feel like there was a darkness there, or did it feel pretty light overall in your experience?
in my experience, it felt overall light, but my roommate, she would have her boyfriend over, and he, I guess, made fun of the fact that I was saying that, we were seeing things and we would hear things and stuff like that. And then he claims that he would wake up in the middle of the night, like something was waking him up, and just like staring at him with red eyes and stuff.
Ooh.
So I don't know.
Well, here's the other part of that too. Because of what that building, let's say, was formerly, I feel this vortex was opened up over time. Like I'm not entirely sure if the vortex was there before the hospital, I guess it was, or that kind of facility nearby. But it feels like the area has created kind of like, let's just call it a portal. And so I do feel that not only like human beings that were there, that passed, that or just wanted to stick around are there, but also, yeah, other dimensional beings, sometimes denser. And that there is a kind of phenomenon I'm trying to understand these patterns, because I keep hearing about darker beings coming through in areas that used to be hospitals. And I'm like, what is that? And I do feel these beings kind of feed on that certain energy of like sickness, let's say. And so I feel like they're almost a certain, like you could say, a race of certain darker beings that feed off that kind of energy. So you might be prone to find them in like old asylums, old hospitals, things like that. So that's very interesting you mentioned that.
Well, is there for like that example, let's say a portal does open up. If someone was still living there, how would they, I guess you can say, like fix this or stop it? Is it like Palo Santo, sage spray, someone come in and do like a house cleansing, or to close the portals up, or is it just kind of a portal's there and that's it?
Well, it kind of depends. If it's like a big, almost like vortex, to me, I feel it's very difficult to close, like for just one person. Um, some people specialize in closing vortexes and portals, and I feel if they're small enough, you can manage them, like close them. Like I've closed smaller portals before that I've accidentally opened up because I'm a psychic. And so just being in a certain area too long, I can accidentally rip open a portal. So I have to kind of be attentive and make sure I close them. Or sometimes I'll open up a portal to help someone who wants to cross over, and then I'll close the portal. But when I feel this is like an example like this, I feel like it's like more of a vortex almost, where it's very large and it's very powerful, and it would be a little bit difficult for, I think, an individual to close it. Perhaps a group of people forming a kind of psychic circle and intending it together could close it. But then I also feel like it would be, imagine like I like using a like fabric metaphor when I'm talking about portals and vortexes, because like, you know, when you get a pair of jeans and over time, like you kind of wear a hole in a certain area and then you put a patch there, right? So imagine like psychics getting together and closing the vortex or the portal. Well, I feel the area is always prone to opening back up again because it's like there was a tear there in the space-time fabric. So then you kind of have to continuously do like constant upkeep to keep it closed, let's say. So that's how I feel about bigger portals. And I do feel like this one was more of a vortex. Like it ended up becoming big enough where it opened up a type of vortex that's fairly large, not like a small, like, you know, tiny portal.
Wow,
Does that answer your question? Yeah, Jeanette, that was cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, that's why to this day I still sleep with the light on if I'm by myself.
Yeah.
And my husband makes fun of me for that.
I don't blame you at
Yeah,
all.
not at all. Yeah.
All right, Dina asked the question. Let me just go on over and find you. Oh, wait. Sorry, let me unmute you. Okay. I'm hitting unmute, but it's not letting me unmute.
Oh, you're trying to unmute Dina.
Dina, I'm so sorry. I can't unmute you.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, perfect.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, Dina.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Yeah, I know in the past you mentioned that you felt something was going to happen around that you felt, I think somebody asked, do you see anything happening later on more this year? And you said, yeah, you felt some big energy. Something's going to happen right around the time of the election. And as we're all watching the news week by week, we are seeing everything with our own eyes very clearly, that there's unprecedented things happening. Like you had the wildfires, and you had the back-to-back double whammy hurricanes with the flooding, and the worst hurricane that hit land in that area, they said one in 150 years. And so and then you see gratefully you saw the big march today that was happening from the Lincoln, and it's just like it's like one thing after another, and we're still in a pandemic. And you know, flashbacks in your mind, is the world going to just like crumble or something? So I just thought, maybe could you share anything more that you alluded to before that might happen around the election? Or is it you can't disclose it, or you don't see a full picture, or if this is not the right time to share? What are your feelings on that?
That's a great question, Dina. And undoubtedly, it's been pretty unsettling to see what's been transpiring around us, right? And yes, I have been getting, like, as it gets closer, I've been feeling this kind of dread. And I've been telling my husband about it. I've been just like, oh man, I'm almost like, don't want to go. I just want to hunker down in our house and not go anywhere for several months. And that's the kind of energy I feel, where both just before election time and after election time, I do see a lot of fighting. I'm seeing, so let's say, like, more abstractly, I see a lot of collisions of people, may possibly physically fighting, sabotage. It's a very warlike energy. Not saying it's a war that's going to happen, but it's that type of aggressive energy of pure, like, almost like adrenaline. And what I would just say is that I would advise people probably not go out. I know it's hard because we've just been starting to maybe walk outside a little bit, and, you know, still kind of be quarantined in other places. The feeling I get is that we should probably stay home and in a place that makes us feel safe. And I do feel if we're at home, you know, that's the most safest thing you can do right before the elections. I'd say in a few weeks leading up to the elections, and then after, I see several months of struggle after the election. And that's why I'm like, mentally been preparing myself to basically just be, you know, in the home. I live in a kind of an isolated area. So if you live in an isolated area, it may not be as bad. But if you're kind of like near a city and stuff, like I would just suggest, just making a plan, just in case, because I do feel that is a potential. And Trang and I talked about this in the past about predictions. Is it's variable sometimes. Like predictions can change depending on the next moment. So, as of this moment and all the time that's led up to it, that's what I've been feeling. And this week I've been starting to feel it very heavily. So yeah, that's what I would say, Dina, is that yes, there's going to be some major unrest. We're going to see some potentially fighting between people, like in groups. Not like a full war, but potentially like on the streets. Sabotage, potentially like people being more likely to do something that could be harmful to a group of people. Let's just say that. So that's why I wanted to say to anyone who's wants to play it safe, just hunker down during that time. I'd say for SEP, a little before and after SEP, probably a couple months or so. So that's what I'm seeing. I know it's not, I don't like giving, negative news or anything like that, but
Right.
yeah, that if it could mean being protected, best to play it safe.
Well, I think everybody can just see with their own eyes too, leading up to this, the months before, that we can see that there's no respect of guidelines. There's no respect of law. So we can see it. We can just see it with our own eyes, how everything is just like crumbling as far as this, society norms and abiding by the law. It's like, and so when you bring up the fact that you see groups fighting amongst themselves, that's very conceivable. And what's more scary is you've got people that have firearms and other weapons. And you saw when the first stay at home, people were going crazy just in line at Costco, right? And they were just, ruthless in the markets. And so what I hear from you now is that seems like that's going to go on even more so, especially depending on the results of the election. And I think in our gut feeling, we kind of know even if he loses, he's not going to go away quietly. So that in itself, we could almost anticipate there's going to be upheaval and unrest, and anybody who follows him are going to be the ones fighting with the other groups that have opposite, feelings and beliefs.
Yeah.
So I've told my own kids, they're your age, Maria, and it's hard. They're still having to work. Some of them are working from home, and my son has to go in. And I tell them, it's hard to say, oh, just go from point A at work to point B at home and that's it, because like you could see all over the United States, it's that young 20 to 30 group that are just really tired of staying home, and they feel healthy, so they're going out, and they felt that was contributing to more spread. And so I'm trying to do what you suggest and guide them to kind of stay close to home, but maybe they have to see it with their own eyes if things get really ugly.
Yeah. And, and the thing is too, think of it this way. What we've been going through with this pandemic has kind of prepped us in a way for chaos,
yeah, really,
right? So, and seeing some of the unfortunate violence that's happened recently with the guns and some, the groups, the guns and stuff, that has also kind of given us a little hint just to see what could potentially happen if you multiplied that. So just to be safe, not to have, I am not a fan of scaring people and making and assisting them in living in fear, but yeah, trust your guts. That's what I'll say. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for your question, Dina. That was a really good question. Hope everyone stays safe out there. Oh, we got some more good questions coming in too.
Marina, I'm gonna unmute you.
She says she can't be unmuted because she's got kiddos.
Oh, whoops, just kidding. I didn't catch up. Okay, I'll read it off. I get premonitions, dreams, visions of events before they happen. I don't understand why. How can I trust my 2-year-old sees ghosts? in quotes. Is she truly seeing spirits, or is it her imagination?
Okay, so yes, the psychic abilities run in your family. Marina, you are psychic. And so it's your 2-year-old, and your 2-year-old is showing some mediumistic abilities. So being able to see spirits, energies, potentially maybe auras. But yeah, and the thing too is one of the first things I like to teach people when they're trying to understand their abilities is that your imagination is metaphysical. So our imagination is actually a tool for accessing other dimensions, and that's where we get our ideas from. That's where we process past and future events, because we're actually going back in time and forward in time processing those things. So it's inherently metaphysical. So we can kind of like push the idea of imagination and psychic together, and know that's like inherently like how humans are designed to use the imagination to access other dimensions. And I think there's something positive going on where more parents are becoming aware of these abilities. More kids are coming in remembering past lives. And so it's kind of forcing the parents to kind of deal with this like strange, phenomenon, it seems. But you're going to see a lot more kids coming in like this. And it's really important to foster them and to help them understand what's going on in a very gentle way that a child mind can understand. And so it's more like asking them questions like, what did you see? Did they give you a name? How did it make you feel? How often do you see them? And it's just more like letting them tell you a story. And it kind of makes it less intimidating than more like, wait, like my parents used to tell me, like, put your cross under your pillow, like that scared the crap out of me. I had like a big old crucifix above my above my bed and under my pillow every night, and I was just like shaking in fear all the time. So, that, so it's better to just, be participant in them, because guess what? It's genetic, guys. Psychic abilities are passed down the line of family. For me, it comes from my dad's side heavily. The mediumistic stuff and the healer stuff comes from my dad's side, and then my mom is like an intuitive. So I have it on both sides, but heavily from my dad's side, and they're all afraid of it because it's something that we're not really taught how to deal with, So yeah, your 2-year-old is just legitimately psychic and mediumistic, medium. And so you two can actually grow in your gifts together and understand it more. And, as she gets older, her gifts might change and stuff like that. And your premonitions and dreams and visions, those we can kind of call those like prophetic dreams or prophetic visions. This is the kind of stuff that oracles in Delphi, right, used to do, like the ancient oracles you hear about in myths and stories and history. They had these types of abilities and these types of prophetic dreams. Now, a lot of times for people, it comes as like a burden. They're like, oh, I don't want to know. I don't want to dream about someone who's going to pass away. Like, why me? Why? And that is kind of the challenge, is learning to kind of go with that psychic flow. And it takes years. It takes years to try and understand it more. But just know there's nothing wrong with you. It's a gift. And that you two are very blessed with those abilities. So yeah, if you have any more questions in the future, of course, like, we want to create a community here where people can ask questions and not feel alone in this journey, because it's like, what's happening to me? Or am I going crazy? So thank you so much for sharing that, Marina.
Awesome. Monica, I'm going to mute you. You seem to have an interesting story. If this lets me. Okay. There you go.
Hi.
Hello.
So when I was a child, I would dream my entire day, and then I would wake up and have to live that entire day. And as a child, it was frustrating because I had to go to school twice, which was not fun. But as I got older, those dreams kind of went away. And I don't know why, but then at around the age of 14, I had a time and ended up, I guess, feeling like somebody was like tucking me into bed, and then I thought I saw like a male figure by the window and by the door and by the closet, and then I eventually just stopped staying in that room because it just kind of made me uncomfortable. And also around that age, I was having dreams where I was children who were in very dire straits or being hurt, and I would wake up with the same pain in the same area and where that child was, and it almost felt like I was in that child's body during that difficult time to sort of release them from having to have that experience. And then I'd wake up and then those dreams went away too. So I don't know. Don't know.
I'm just like, my mind, like I've seen some stuff, guys, and my mind is blown right now. Like Monica, thank you for sharing that extremely unique story. Yes. So, okay. And this is, again, a type of psychic ability. So let me start off by explaining that some of you may have heard here that time is relative on the earth plane, right? We've created entire theories to try and explain time on our 3D existence here, but time actually does not exist. It just doesn't. It's, so like in other dimensions, when we're talking about other dimensions, when we're talking about other astral planes and stuff, there is no time. And that's why we can feel a discrepancy between, between, like, let's say the dream felt like it was like an hour, and then we woke up and only 2 minutes passed, because it just doesn't correlate, because time is relative here. So for example, in Monica's case, she was able to time travel with her like astral body and literally travel forward in time to experience this stuff, this entire days, and have to live it all again, which they literally make movies out of this stuff, Monica. I mean, what, I'm blown away. And so, yes, you're extremely gifted, extremely. And the whole thing about, being almost like, it feels like you're being called to by like souls that were crying out for help. And I got like chills like down my spine. I'm getting chills right now, because that is like, I mean, the type of gift that is, I mean, it feels like so horrific to have to see that and to go through that and to know that possibly that's someone actually out there crying up, putting a psychic call for help out there. I do feel you're like almost like a guardian angel, like on earth. Like I do feel like your energy, when I first saw you pop up on here, I was like, wow, what a gentle like energy, almost like, it's almost like an angelic type of energy in a way. And, people talk about like, can angels be incarnated on earth? And I don't think it's black and white. I think that there are some beings that are similar to angels that can decide to incarnate to kind of help do some heavy duty lifting. It's not usually an easy life, but it can happen. Not sure to what extent, but yes, there are beings that are like that are literally like helper souls. And I think you're one of those souls, Monica, where you've probably spent your entire life just being like sucked into people's pain. Like you just feel it. Like you can just like empathy is like extreme for you. Does that resonate?
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's one of the just having it is kind of like a burden when you're trying to be a human being and understand what the hell's happening to you, and like to feel that much torturous pain in your own body and to feel helpless, not knowing what to do. That's difficult. That's a very difficult kind of, but a beautiful gift at the same time. So yes, I feel that in life you would do best, and you may already have been drawn to a profession or kind of circumstances where you tend to be a helper, but I do feel that's kind of your calling, is to be a helper spirit, like a helper soul, and you're here to heal people. You have a very intense healing energy about you. So it's beautiful, and you're gonna experience more stuff that's crazy and unexplainable, because you're that like psychic and that tuned in, and you astrally travel like it's no big deal. So yeah, that's cool. How does all that feel?
It's a lot to take in.
Mm-hmm. Understandably. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for asking or telling us your story. I just love hearing people's stories. It's a way to really unite us, bring us together, and maybe bring some understanding to someone else who's going through something similar.
All right, next up is Miss Erin. Hello.
Oh,
Hi.
she has to be.
It's
Oh,
okay.
oh, sorry
Oh.
about that.
Just kidding, I'm catching up on the messages now.
It's all right.
So
Yeah, just basically they're like we're back in school and it's really scary. Like, is it gonna be okay? Like, I don't know.
that's a good question, and my heart is just for aching for the teachers and students who have to be, put back into that before it feels like it's safe. Erin, I feel you're going to be fine. But I see a lot of worry. I see that you're going to be carrying a lot of worry with you day to day. So just make sure to take care of yourself. Make sure to get some rest. I feel like you tend to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, and
Yep.
and being in that environment, yeah, I think that's actually what I see is like, it's almost like your guides are like, oh, okay, she's fine, the virus fine. We're talking about this is what they're kind of like doing this, and they're like, this is what she needs to hear, and it's really about taking care of yourself during this time where you're going to be feeling like the burden of all the stress and worry around you is yours. So trying to separate your own worry from other people's. This is an exercise in because you're very empathic. This is an exercise in learning how to set boundaries for your empathy and making sure to get a lot of fresh air in between. That's something that is going to help you kind of stay kind of energetically cleansed and also kind of clear your mind. They're saying that is something that can help you. So yeah, they're saying like that's the biggest challenge for you is just taking care of yourself during this time where you're feeling that feeling of insecurity from everybody.
Thanks. Sorry, it's kind of off topic for tonight.
Oh no, no worries. These are community events. So we just set a general theme and then we kind of just see what happens, and wherever we go, we go.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for your question, Erin. Glad you're here.
Jeanette has another story.
Oh, I didn't realize you unmuted me.
Yeah. Surprise.
Okay, so I remember when I was very young, maybe 4 or 5. It was me, my sister, my mom, my dad. We were living in an apartment, and I remember waking up one night, and I walked into the living room, and I see my mom lighting a candle. I think it was white, and she had it right next to like a metal bowl of water. And then I remember her saying something about like a spirit or something. And then I don't know what happened after that, but shortly after we moved to another place, and I remember seeing like a black figure like in the hallway and by the stairs when I was standing in the door of my new room. Can you give me any insight on that?
Yeah, so your mom, I feel I feel like she grew up with a certain kind of rituals about how to handle certain things unseen. And just in general, like it's almost like she had, people can call it like folk remedies or folk tales, within all of our cultures and stuff. There's sometimes like things that you can do to like address certain things. And I do feel she felt a threatening energy. And it's white candles are seen as a kind of purifying tool. And also you can use it to set the intention in the candle to kind of work, while it's burning. So people do use candles as like protection, intention setting, etc. And so I have seen a lot of different people's families use candles as a type of way to kind of keep certain energies at bay or to bring in certain energy. White candles are also associated with like angelic beings and like higher vibrational beings. So I am seeing like, I don't know if she like prayed to angels or something, but I do see like maybe there was some sort of angels that were like around you guys, but there was a darker entity that seems like it was attached there. And so, yeah, you saw that entity. It was some sort of, again, I would call it more of like a interdimensional being. I don't feel necessarily that it was human. And it could have been that it was on this plane for so long that it kind of lost some of its human traits. but because we can transform if we decide to stay on this plane, like, you know, the way we present ourselves can change, and sometimes it almost like can be like less human if it's been here for like who knows how many, like what, hundreds of years or something, thousands of years. So yeah, something dark about that energy. Do you happen to know if she had some sort of like, has she ever taught you any of these rituals or anything like that? Yeah, it's very interesting.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, white candles are like powerful remedies potentially. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, you got some good ones, Jeanette.
I was like, if you have more stories, keep them rolling. I'm going to hop over to Facebook here. We got a question from Annie. She says,
Hey,
hi,
Annie.
everyone. So whenever my eye twitches, specifically my right eye, when the bottom part twitches, something bad always happens to someone. I know that sounds really morbid and freaky, but I noticed it when it was twitching for 2 weeks before my cousin passed away. I get super paranoid when this happens now since after he passed away, whenever it twitches again. However, right now, my left eye top lid is twitching nonstop, and I don't know what that means. That's never happened before.
Wow, that's a really interesting one. And a few things come up. And at first I wanted to just, I always have to give disclaimers just, you know, before we talk about psychic senses, because if it, you know, yes, like certain medications can cause eye twitches or twitching in the body, like involuntary twitches, sure, like neurological problems, blah, blah, blah. Yes. Okay. We got that out of the way. But the thing is that I don't know if any of you have ever heard that our bodies can douse. Like our bodies, we can use as a pendulum. And we can actually, the same way we would use like a, you know, one of these or a dowsing rods, we can actually ask our body and our body will move a certain way or react a certain way. And you can learn how to use that. But some people have that kind of natural intuition. They understand what their body's doing. And that's why it's so important to be, to notice the patterns. This is a great exercise in being able to find out how your psychic ability is talking to you, what it means, and how it branches out into other types of meanings. And this is eventually, if you ever want to become a reader, these patterns can help you when you're working with other clients. Now, yes, some people get different feelings in their bodies that can be very distinctive before something bad happens. Like we talked about earlier, that cigarette smell. Another one of our viewers was talking about, like before something bad happens or whatever. So for you, this is like kind of your little psychic, a part of your psychic gift is, yes, your body is acting like a pendulum almost, or dowsing. And it's like detecting an energy that no one's picking up on yet, way before it happens. Could be days, could be weeks, etc. And so you're right, you do have some sort of ability, and it is manifesting in you like that. And I know, you know, it's so hard with the ones that where people, I hear about this a lot, where people can sense that something bad's about to happen to someone and you feel kind of helpless to stop it. I can't say like I've figured out a way to make it feel any better for people who experience that yet. I've spent a lot of time thinking about these types, this version of psychic abilities where people are tuned into that. But at the end of the day, you know, sometimes we can't really do much. That's part of one of the kind of can feel like a burden sometimes with psychic gifts, because you're going to inevitably know stuff that you really don't want to know, because you're just like an antenna picking up on subtle energies, like do, like everywhere you go, like the grocery store. Oh gosh, like, you know, you're going to get your dog groomed. Oh man, like some people are tuned into different energies, you know, not just human. So yes, it is a gift. You're not crazy. Pay attention to it, journal about it, and don't be hard on yourself. If something you keep noticing, you're sensing something that's in the works of happening, there's not a lot we can do if it's destined to happen. As a medium, a lot of times when I talk to spirits who've crossed over, they usually tell me that it was their time, and they explain to me why, and they talk about all the series of events that had to happen. And it's hard for us to understand and accept, but Usually death is a type of destiny marker, and it happens within a certain range of time and a certain range of potentials. So don't beat yourself up for that gift. I hope that helps in some way. Thank you so much for your question.
She also had a second one, which I found interesting too.
Ooh.
She said, I got a guava quartz today from a crystal shop, and I cleanse and meditate on it and asked to be more in tune with my guides and my angels, and my office door opened. I don't know if that was because I didn't shut it completely or if it was a sign.
So I always encourage people to trust their gut feelings, because this is the first step of understanding our abilities. And self-doubt is one of the biggest blockers for us, psychic mediums, healers, as we're trying to understand our own gifts. So yes, I do believe that was a sign to say hello. So don't be afraid.
Awesome. Okay. And then let's see here. Question from Cece. See if I can make sense of this. But if I don't say it or brush it off like it was nothing, I swear it becomes full-on deja vu. Why is that? That might have been piggyback riding on maybe Annie's.
So I'm just reading it again.
Yeah.
And say it out loud. Oh, that's interesting. Yes. Okay. Wow. Okay. So I'm just getting some information. I was just asking my guides, like, what do you think about this? And so what I'm hearing is that, and deja vu, like I think I've done a video on deja vu, or I'd answered somewhere.
Yeah.
And what I say, okay, you remember?
It's on our YouTube. Yeah.
Jeanette's on it. I love it. So one of the things that I say is that one of the reasons we can feel like something is deja vu is if we're seeing like a peek into another like parallel timeline or something that's about to happen, and using our, let's say if you're speaking, if you say it, it basically grounds the energy back again. It almost like re-anchors the reality back into the reality you're in. So it's like we kind of momentarily can like drift into this other timeline or reality, or we're perceiving it, and using your voice or saying something or like shutting your car door can kind of act as like a reset, and it can ground you back into your reality. At least that's what my guides are saying on that. And I've never thought about that or asked that. So thank you for asking that super cool question. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes. Still confused?
Yeah.
Do
you need more? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
it's
weird. It is weird, right? Indeed. Oh man, it's so weird to think that there's no time. There's so many different galaxies out there and everything. Yes. And then
thank you so much for your question, Cece.
Yes. Vic asked, I heard, let's see here. So it's kind of like together. I heard that children can remember their past lives. Is that true? I also heard you can ask kids to tell you about their previous life before a certain age.
Let's see. Where is that in that? I just wanted to read that last part again.
Oh, it was, I'll type it out. There we go.
Okay. So I heard children can remember their past lives. Is that true? Mm-hmm. And I also heard that you can ask kids to tell you about their previous lives. That's a really cool set of questions. Okay. So yes, you guys may have heard people kind of talk about children when they're still fresh in this world, still having this very distinctive connection to the other dimensions, which we would consider the other side, the afterlife, heaven, whatever you want to call it. And because they are so fresh, I do feel that's always resonated with me. And what I see is, yes, I'm seeing the age of 4 as being like that's like up to the age of 4. I'm just seeing that number 4. And then after that is when it can start to morph. They get more grounded. So children are actually pretty ungrounded. You might notice this as their hyperactivity, their inability to listen. They're like, blah, 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 whatever. And you're like, come on, kids. Like, anyone here teach kindergarten or pre-K, first grade? They're very difficult as a whole to like get to like listen, and because their consciousness is still kind of toggling between realms. And so I saw the age of 4 seems to be like up to that age is when it's like really prime, where they can remember past life information. If you ask them like they might be able to tell you like how they decided to come here, why they chose their parents or whatever. I can't say it's guaranteed every kid will. It depends. You'd be surprised how much children absorb as far as like how we indoctrinate them to like live in this world. And I don't say indoctrinate in a mean way. It's more of like we have to be prepared to live in a 3D existence. And that's why you can notice the decline of the sense of innocence. And by the time when they start going heavily into elementary school, you start to see that beautiful little innocence kind of fade away. And like, why is that, you know? And really they're becoming very grounded in 3D, and 3D is very dense. They're coming from much higher dimensions. So yes, to answer your question, Vic, you can ask them. A lot of them will probably be able to tell you. Some of them just outright will tell you about their past lives. And more kids are coming in and remembering more of those experiences and being more vocal. And a lot of the ones that I hear talk about these experiences, their parents reporting them between, it sounds like the ages of like, 2 to like 4-ish, sometimes a little older. So I don't know.
What's the best way to, let's say like there's maybe not a kid that's like, hey, I remember this, and they're a bit more shy, quiet. What's like a great way, best practice maybe to ask them to reveal these memories of past lives? Well,
I would have a disclaimer that says, never force your child or pressure them into telling you anything like this. If you want, you can ask them like to draw out where they think they came from. Just keep it open. If you want to just see how they think, like, oh, why don't you draw mommy a picture, draw daddy a picture of, where you think you came from? Like, how did you come to mommy and daddy, or whatever configuration of parents they have, and see what comes up. I think drawing is one of the ways that kids most easily express these abstract ideas, because at that age, you don't quite have the verbal acuity to really like put that into a maybe cohesive or coherent sentence. So I would say drawing or playing with dolls is probably one of the better ways to gently, and if they don't want to talk about it, do not pressure them. It's, sometimes it's cute to see like how they perceive their existence. And it's actually pretty like humbling in a way to see that how they communicate. So yeah, good question, Vic. Questions.
Jeanette has another. I'm gonna mute you, Jeanette. She has another story. I love these. Wait, unmute. Come on, Zoom. Okay, there we go.
So it's I don't know if it's like a story, but it's just like reoccurring feelings. Because remember you said that if I'm feeling that someone's watching me, something is. So I've been feeling lately in my current house, usually in the bathroom, in my bedroom bathroom specifically, and sometimes like in like near my kitchen area when I'm listening in the living room. Is there something that I should be worried about or whatever?
Not worried. It's not, I don't see anything malevolent. Actually, what I am getting though is that just you, your husband, and your children, I feel like you have some senses, some sensory abilities, and you might, and also that I'm feeling the area you live, that like the state or the county or whatever has a lot of history. There's a lot of history there, it feels like.
Jeanette, are you in Nova?
Yeah, Loudoun County.
Are you aware if there's like that if that has a historical area, there's a lot of like, it's an older area, older town, anything like that?
No, this town is actually pretty new.
Is the land like, it could be inhabited before like modern civilization or anything like that? Sometimes if there's history in the surrounding areas, it can find its way into newer communities that pop up. Like there's so many stories of brand new developments being built on land that they thought was inhabited by no one, but it was sacred to some culture, or it was actually inhabited by a more ancient or older, indigenous peoples, etc. or it was temporarily inhabited by a previous generation of people, 100, 200 years ago. But I do feel like just like I almost feel like no matter where you guys go, you're gonna pick up on stuff. Like they just attracted in a way to you because of your perceptiveness. But this particular spirit, I just feel like is almost like a wanderer. Like I don't feel I don't feel like there's anything negative. And I do feel like sometimes there's even family that visits you that you might kind of just be sensing as well. So that's kind of my read on that. But yeah, very interesting. There's something kind of powerful about the land in some way. So I'm so curious to know the history of that area in general.
So how do I make myself not scared?
Well, I've been starting to do some more videos on this because it's a common frustration with people. They're just like, why? Like, how do I not get jumpy and scared? Because I think, unfortunately, like Western culture especially has really like cashed in on the fear of like unknown entities in Hollywood and stuff. And like they make things seem like it's happened so much more than it does, like, and they make the entities scarier than they are. And it's just, I'm sure, are there scary dark entities? Are there demons? Yes, yes, yes. However, the chance that you're going to have a super negative experience with a being is relatively low. It can happen, but a lot of times what we're just sensing is just like passerbys. There could be a portal nearby and they're just coming through or hanging out for a while then leaving, because there's all kinds of portals all over the world. And the United States has many vortexes. One time I asked my guides to show me a map of vortexes in the United States, and I was like, oh, like clairvoyantly. And I was like, oh man, that's a lot. There's just been a lot of history here. There's a lot of sacred lands. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of geographical things that can cause vortexes and portals and things. So yeah, the thing to remember is that we are so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. And we have the ability to set boundaries in physical life with people and with beings that are other dimensional, and we just have to say like, I want this much space around me, like nothing can come near me within this much space, or only my family members, or only my angels and guides. We just have to clarify our boundaries, and that's it. And if you still feel it after you said like only family, let's say, or guides and guides and angels, like then it could be a spirit family member like checking up on you. But the key thing to remember is, how do you feel? Like think outside of your pre-programmed fear of like unknown, scary, and think of like what feelings you get in your body, especially like when you're feeling this being around. Like, do you feel anxious? Do you feel sick? Do you feel like an oppressive energy? You'll feel a very strong oppressive energy usually if it's a dark being. Random spirits showing up, like a lot of times they're just curious, they're just scooting around, or they're just attracted to your energy and they just want to hang out, or they're attracted to your home. Maybe it looks familiar. There's all kinds of reasons why, but most of the time it's nothing to be worried about.
Okay, good.
Jeanette, the reason why I asked where you were was because I have a friend who, Maria, I told you about the story with all like the weird stuff happening in the basement and all the sounds and everything. And that was in the Falls Church area. And so Maria was like, oh, there's probably a vortex there. So
is this in a similar area to her?
I just Google Map just now. It's about an hour away.
Okay. No, it's like that whole area. Like I mean, like the entire like hundreds of miles. There's just something interesting about about
it's probably all of Nova then.
Yeah,
it could be. It
Virginia,
could be.
Virginia's had a pass.
I would do some research and see like what historical, like where how was that land been handled and what's the history of it? And I'm just so curious.
Let's see here. I'm gonna go. Okay, there's Aunt Annie. Oh, she did mention about her left eye twitching. She said, do you have any insight why my left eye is twitching? And it's been nonstop for weeks. I don't think it's a bad omen, but just would like a confirmation. So before her right eye was twitching, that's when the cousin died. So the left eye is like, what's going on this side?
So it could be that your eyes are just very sensitive to these energies. So it's funny, I get that too. And sometimes it's just physical. Like sometimes we have too much sometimes we're getting too much psychic information or energy or just stress, and our bodies can react by, kind of fritzing out a little. But the thing is, like, I always like to talk about the gray area. Like sometimes things that like malfunction can actually also be psychic. Like they intermix, they can be one or the other, but I do feel like that your body's just really sensitive to energy. And so that's kind of the way like communication is kind of happening for you right now. And so I would just try to find a pattern for that. It could just be your way of just sensing when energy's around you in the other eye. Also think about what side is, like, right side is kind of a more creative side, left side is more analytical. And it's kind of interesting to think of that. And the opposite sides of the brain, I think, manage the opposite limbs, I believe. I could be wrong about that. So it's just interesting to think about our physiology too. But yeah, I wouldn't be worried about it unless you notice like a pattern. Of course, like always get it checked out if it gets like out of hand, or if you're worried about it, go to a doctor. But I think it's just your body's way of reacting to certain energies. So yeah, definitely keep a journal to try and track like when it's happening. And I think eventually you're going to find a pattern.
Great. And Dina has a new question. I'm going to unmute you, Dina. Okay, come on, Zoom.
Oh, did you see Trisha's question right before too? Trisha, we'll get to your question right after. Sorry, I think we accidentally overlooked it.
Yeah, no, my question was, it was just pertaining to children being able to see things. And I, we had talked about this before, or it's been known that kids can. And so just like a couple of weeks ago, I was at the park and these kids are pointing to this bush, and he's saying, and the father says, "What are you looking at?" And the child says, "Don't you see it? It's a snake." And I was just passing by and I'm hearing this, and she's like, see, there it is. It's a snake. And the father's looking at the bush and I'm looking at the bush and we can't see anything, right? And then they go away, and he's like probably thinking, okay, come on, it's time to go. Another kid goes by and they're looking at the same bush, and they're talking amongst themselves, and they're looking, and then they're looking around, and they're looking at the bush again. And then so somebody, an adult with me, says, what are you seeing in there? And they're just saying, there's something in there. They said, there's something in there. But I mean, when they're asking an adult, don't you see it? The adults that are looking at in that direction can't see anything. So when I left, and I'm thinking, oh, I wonder if they probably really could see something, and it's just because we're adults and we couldn't see it.
Yes, that is a great example. And that's so cool how like all the kiddos were seeing it, not just one. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was two different groups of kids, and it was like, well, and the poor father was probably thinking, yeah, sure, about his daughter, when his daughter's saying, don't you see it? And I was looking, I didn't see anything. I mean, nothing. And then I remember when I was the topic of deja vu, I do remember when I was growing up that I would like you would live a scene, and when it's happening, you think it is happening, but apparently it was a dream. And then now, weeks later, now the same thing happens, and it just blows you away, and you're thinking, this feels like this is a rerun. But yet when you experienced it the first time, you thought it was real, but really it wasn't real. It was something that it was a dream, and then now you're actually living it in real time. It kind of blows. It is kind of crazy. And part of, I can understand the whole discussion where you might feel these things and you just brush it off because it doesn't seem normal, or you don't want to share that you've had these things because people just look at you like, well, yeah, sure, and just let it go. And then as you get older, more other things start happening, and unless you talk and share it with other people who have had the same experiences, majority of people won't understand, or they just brush it off.
Exactly. And that's part of our training and here.
Yeah. Then part of it, when my dog, remember I was telling you how he gets scared. And when he would get scared, I would go in the backyard and I felt a chill,
That's right.
Yeah. And it's like, if he feels something, I feel something too. And how you were saying about boundaries, I was projecting, this is our backyard. You need to just move away, and just, we're protected by a little bubble. And, if you would have talked to me like this before, I would say, that's crazy. But,
yeah.
but yet then he gets more relaxed and I get more relaxed, and that feeling is gone, where you feel that the chill, like there's it's just like there's a chill in the air, but it's a different kind of chill. Do you know what I mean? It's not
Mhm.
like not like a
It's not
cold
cold
chill.
chill.
Yeah, it's not like it's the temperature's 40 degrees. It's that kind of cold. It's a kind of chill, like a presence kind of a chill.
Yes, it's a
And
very distinctive
it
feeling.
is easy to get scared from that, but I always kind of was telling myself, well, it's either nice things, or maybe I was telling myself, maybe it's my father-in-law coming to, he loved dogs. I said, maybe it's my father-in-law just coming to check on Katsu and wants to pet him and play with him. I don't know, but I read, from hearing everybody else's story, I can get little bits and pieces to relate to.
Yeah, no, that's so cool, Dina. Little kiddos too, and pets, yes. Not to put them in the same category.
Yeah.
But there's the type of innocence that they have, the
Yeah.
connectedness that they have. That's why the kids and our little animal companions can see these things that aren't there. And as adults, I do think now the veil is thinning. That's what I've been sensing, the veil between our world and the next other dimensions.
Right. Yeah,
I
that's
do
what
feel
you
it's
said.
thinning. Yeah, more people are going to be feeling, adults are going to start to be feeling more of this as well. But yeah, those kids were seeing something for sure. It was really there. It was just maybe in another dimension. And also some kids might talk about an imaginary friend that's like an animal or some mythical creature. Well, guess what, guys? There's elementals too. And elementals are attached to the different elements of, let's say, our existence. So earth, wind, fire, water. And there's elementals that manage kind of within those categories, and they're really kind of earth centric in a lot of ways, helping the earth in some way in their respective category. And they can look like mythical creatures. They can look like fairies or gnomes or leprechauns or goblins or whatever, I don't know, whatever people like to term them, but it is in a whole other type of realm, and kids can see that sometimes. Great question, or great story, Dina. Thank you for sharing those.
All right,
And then
Trisha.
Trisha.
Yes, I'm going to try to unmute you so you have a chance to talk to Maria and ask your question. And also welcome to our community.
Yeah, nice
Thank
to have you.
Thank you. Yeah, my question is, so I have always had really vivid, active dream life ever since I can remember. Before I got pregnant, my grandma came from another realm, threw me in this really powerful dream, and in an orb of light, and she placed the spirit of my future son in my body. And I was like, okay, that was the most craziest dream I've ever had in my life. But on her shoulder was this other, there were two other female spirits behind her. One was my aunt, but the other one, I didn't know what it was. It was a female spirit, but I didn't know. Anyway, so it was the craziest dream. And then she came, before I was pregnant as well, she came to me later and said, "You're going to have a son." And I was like, it's what if I don't want a son? What if I want a daughter? And she just gave me this look are you fucking kidding me? I came all the way from the other realm, and you fucking say to me, you want a daughter? Just go now. And so anyway, I ended up getting pregnant shortly thereafter and having a son. And I just always felt maybe he was, since she kind of ushered him into me, that maybe he was someone previous in the family, and do spirits kind of reincarnate, keep reincarnating within the same family trees and things like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that is a beautiful illustration of it. Thank you for sharing that incredible story. I'm just wow. But no, actually it's, so some of you may have heard of the concept of soul families, and it's kind of a group of similar type of souls. Well, that can reincarnate together or reincarnate in similar experiences, but there's like a certain recognition. They don't always have to be in your family. They can actually be like friends, like coworkers even, but there's a certain bonding or a certain recognition that you can't quite explain. Like, you know, when you meet somebody, like, I know I've never actually met you, but somehow I know you. Like, and it could be someone you just met off the street and somehow you have that connection. That could be an indicator that you've had a past life with them or they're in your soul family. And yes, like, people reincarnate and play different roles for each other. I know this is like kind of disturbing to some people if anyone's just coming into the idea of reincarnation, I know this could be trippy or like upsetting even, but like, yeah, you could have been like your mom's dad. Like, you could have been like, you know, like your parents could have been your children in your past life, etc. Your grandmother could have been your sister. Like, and there's just endless combinations. And yes, so to answer your question, I feel like you intuitively kind of just knew this or felt this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right on. At least from, like I always say, like, you know, I'll ask spirits and my guides and angels. I talk to elementals and I'll ask them all kinds of questions, and they keep talking about this. And I'm like, okay, this idea that I've heard around it, there must be something to it because spirits are literally telling me about it. So yes, from what I've seen, they do incarnate in like soul groups, soul families, and play different roles for each other. And you can't even plan like several lives in advance, which is something I learned recently with a client that I had. Their loved one came through and was explaining to me like how they had planned like 6 lives in advance from this one. And I was like, well, I didn't even know you could do that. So yeah, I'm always learning new stuff and I'm always happy to share it with you guys. So thank you so much.
So just a quick follow-up question to that. So like they can reincarnate pretty quickly then, it sounds like
they can.
Okay.
But we have free will even on the other side.
Right.
Some spirits do reincarnate really fast, and I've heard of cases even instantaneous. But so far, my clients that I've worked with, like the spirits I've worked with so far, I think most of them like are hanging out for a bit. Like, and it also, you know, it could just be the way I'm perceiving the time, because there's time here and there's no time there. So yeah, like they can choose to reincarnate right away and come back into the family. So one of the common cases I hear is like, my kid reminds me so much of my grandfather or grandmother or something like that, or mom. And it's like, that's not a coincidence.
Right.
So they were like, I want to be able to support my child still by becoming her child, let's say. So they might come right back in. Yeah. Or they might wait and become kind of be more like a guide energy. It's not the same as like your spirit guides that were assigned to you, but they can kind of act like some sort of assisting energy in your life if they don't choose to come back right away, or they might want to wait for you to rejoin them up first. So it depends.
Okay.
Thanks for your question and your story.
Thank you.
Our blog also, our website blog also has an article called Soul Contracts, and it kind of talks about it, which is interesting about like before we come onto Earth, like kind of like, I wouldn't say like destinies we choose, but kind of like, for example, Maria and I, before we came to Earth, we were like, you know, let's work together to help people on their spiritual journey. All right, I'll see you down there. And then we went through. So it's kind of like that. Obviously, there's a lot of free will. Maria and I could have been like, you know what, we don't want to do this. But so yeah, that's an article that talks about it and probably touches on soul families, just FYI.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And Jeanette, I'm going to unmute you. Awesome question. Come on, Zoom. There you go.
Okay. Here I am again.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, so my uncle, when he was a teenager, he was living with his 2 sisters and his mom and dad in Arlington in an old townhouse, and he was living in the basement. Well, he claims that in the middle of the night, he would get molested by a spirit, and he said that he would hear like change coins falling on the floor.
Oof.
Is that something that could happen?
Unfortunately, yes.
Oh my goodness.
In rare cases, yes, it can happen. And this is why I always say it's more rare. But yes, there can be some people who are really nasty in life. And part of them is like worried they're going to like go to hell or something. And so they don't cross over. They're like, nope. I'm going to stay here and be a miserable bastard in spirit and torment people. Yes, it can happen.
Goodness.
Unfortunately, yes, there's been a lot of stories of, you know, again, a lot meaning like it's rare, but I've heard too many stories in the rare category. about being assaulted by a ghost, sexual relations with a ghost. Sometimes there can be other beings that are darker beings that are not human who can kind of do this. It's like a boundary violation. And I'm really just, I feel the energy of that being, and I'm just like, ugh, nasty. I do feel it was a human spirit that was a nasty person in life. And I'm sorry he had to go through that, because yes, it can happen, and people can wake up with like bruises and damage and stuff like that. But see, that's, I know about these things, but I commonly don't talk about them because I know people are going to go like, oh, that's it. Everything's a pedophile ghost. All of it. Like, that's it. I'm screwed. Like, we're done. Bye. Never opening up my gifts again. So just know that that is very rare. And just because those are the most sensational stories to tell online or in Hollywood, that's not common. In fact, most spirits will cross over like pretty quickly. The longest I've seen a spirit that I've worked with hang around is like maybe like a week or two, because they had died traumatically and they just wanted to like see everything and process it and understand it a little bit. But that they will cross over in most cases. It's very rare that they stick around, and it's even rarer that they're that nasty. So, if you do feel you're having an entity or being like that in your space, definitely start putting up boundaries, start doing protections. It depends what you're working with. It can make it more angry. I would recommend bringing in some sort of medium or something to help you, or someone who specializes in cleansings. And but most importantly, and something I see in a lot of these like haunted house like documentaries and videos, like real stories, is the power is hardly ever put in the person who's the victim's hands. Like, it's always like, the guy with the sage is coming, like he's gonna fix it, and he has a rattle and it's gonna be fine. But I'm like, no, like, but like, if that person doesn't learn how to set their own boundaries, it's going to kind of keep being a problem. And so we need to learn that we are capable of pushing these things away from us, because at the end of the day, like, we can push our free will forward and say, no, you're not allowed to violate me. You're not allowed to do that. So it's a lesson sometimes we have to learn the hard way as psychics. And some people start off with like they have negative entities in childhood and stuff. And that my heart always breaks, because I'm like, yeah, it's not fun at all. But we have the power to set those boundaries. Yes.
Okay, I guess I'll tell the rest of my family that he wasn't
He's not
lying.
crazy. He's not crazy. No.
What about the
Poor
change
guy.
that he would hear?
Okay, so, and this is just, and when you said the change, that's why I was like, it's a little graphic, so I'm not going to go into detail, but let's just say like this spirit was kind of reliving things that he did in life, and it was like he had change. Yeah, see, Vic gets it. So it might be triggering to some people, so I'm not going to say it, but I think we can imagine why change would fall out of a pocket. So it's kind of part of that history that spirit had, and he was manifesting familiar things that he did in life, including what he wore and accessories and things like that. So yeah, Vic, I'm so sorry. That's your face just said it all, man. Like, that's how I'm feeling on the inside. But yes, the change is part of that whole being's entity. It's yeah.
So you're saying, so are you saying that it is or was a male or female?
It feels male, but I don't know if it's just had masculine energy, but I keep seeing a male and I keep seeing khaki pants for some reason. I don't know why. It feels like an older man. I'm not sure if it was like an old man, but like the way he dressed seemed from several generations prior. Yeah. I'm so sorry. That's just yeah. I feel he's just an unhappy. He was a miserable perverted person in life, and he kind of had that as a spirit that decided to stay here as well.
Well, we can't end on that note. Someone
I
has to
know.
know the
Somebody
No,
bring
no, no.
something
I
and
got
quick! Triage!
So it's funny because that location that she said, it's about like maybe 20, 30 minutes away from my friend's house,
The
where there was
vortex?
that vortex house
Yeah.
with all the weird things happening in the basement, where he heard music out of nowhere.
Oh.
But I just want to share something with you guys. And this one I shared with Maria, and I felt so bad. But so Maria's taught me a lot. And I hear this all the time. And in a lot of the sessions that we have, that it's like, you can protect yourself. You put a white light, if you want to imagine that way, if you want to imagine a shield. And I remember thinking to myself, I was learning all this, like, really? That's it? I just have to imagine, and then I'm like protected. That's it. So I want to share a story. And well, first of all, just to mention, on our blog, on our website, there's an article we wrote about how to have psychic protection. So check that out for more details. So this one, you guys might know on the YouTube series, on our YouTube, we have a series called Lessons of Wisdom with Grandpa Lon, where we talk to him in the afterlife and all that stuff. And he's really wise and everything. So one time in my life, I think it was like last year, I was just going through a really hard time. And I was just like, I'm done with this. I'm done with like everything metaphysical. Why is my life like this? And I just said out loud, I was like, everyone, all you spirits, leave me the bleep alone. And like, I was really angry. It was just like, the anger came out of me. And usually when I hear spirits, it's like a ringing in my ear, and that's how I know my grandpa's there. And then it just stopped. So I just want to let you guys know, I felt so bad because it is my grandpa and everyone else that's around, all the other spirits around me. And I was just like, leave me alone. That's it. And it worked. And I was like, damn, it really did work. And then obviously when I got back, when I felt a little better, I was like, okay, you guys can come back now.
You had to like
So,
bake them some cookies and be like,
I
I'm
know.
sorry.
I was like, oh, I feel so bad. But at the same time, they understand like the human journey that we're going through. So I just want you guys know that is a story where I was like, you can set your boundaries. You can protect yourself. Even though it sounds so simple, but that's just an example from my story.
Thanks for sharing that, Trang. That
Yes.
definitely lightened
I
up
was like,
a
we
little.
have to end this on a good note.
Just kidding, Jeanette. But that's the thing, is like, we can't bypass the difficult topics. We have to talk about them, because, you know, just because I like to laugh and make jokes doesn't mean that I'm not open to talking about, you know, the darker stuff, because I've definitely had to deal with some darker stuff and all that. And it was a journey into learning my own strength and boundaries. And I just want everyone to have that, be able to have that experience. And once you set the boundaries in the metaphysical, you're going to find it's going to get a lot easier to set the boundaries in real life. Boss boundaries, you know, coworker boundaries, like husband, wife boundaries. And even with your kids, and like, it's healthy to have these boundaries. And I'm still learning about my own, you know, issues with boundaries myself. So, you know, we all can learn a lot in our metaphysical studies. We can take those things with us in our physical lives as well, and they can help us there.
So I think we hit all the questions. So thanks guys so much for coming out, and also keep an eye out for our next event in the next couple of weeks, because we're going to have a session with my grandpa Lon in the afterlife. And he's like, just for those who are new, he's like a wise Buddha. If you watch him on our YouTube channel series, he just says things and you're like, it's just a lot of wisdom. You're like, okay. So anyways, but this time it's usually just me asking Maria questions on YouTube, but this time for this event, we're gonna let you guys ask him questions about the afterlife, the galaxies, universe, and so much more, whatever kind of comes to you guys, your brain and your thoughts and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you so much, guys.
It was so good seeing you all. Thank you so much. And to those who are new, welcome, welcome, welcome.